Tamworth 0, Tottenham 3. That is, of course, an after extra time scoreline. We'll get into it. Welcome into Top the Perch. I'm your host, as always, Nick Burt. It's early January, which means it is time for, the higher up teams, so your Tottenham Hotspurs, to join the greatest competition in all of football, the FA Cup. Tottenham Hotspur, of course, join in the third round as they have for decades upon decades. And up against Tottenham would be, I believe they are 16th in the National League. The National League is the fifth tier in England. That is Tamworth FC. Of course, Tottenham could not get a home draw here because they never get home draws. They travel to the Lamb Ground, which only holds 4,000 spectators. And that would be basically 4,000 spectators hoping to see one of the greatest cup sets in FA Cup history. And let me tell you, that they were close. They were close to seeing this disaster actually happen. Molly Hatchet, a great band, once sang, "I've been traveling down the road and I'm flirting with disaster." That is basically what encompasses what Tottenham Hotspur did today. This game, obviously, as I said, this was after extra time. There were 0 goals in the 90 minutes. Tamworth had two good opportunities right at the end of stoppage time too, and that fully would be full Tottenham right there. I mean, it's a cup competition. You're through to the next round. Doesn't matter if it's 8-0 like City did to Salford on Saturday, or if it's like this after extra time, 3-0 against a team in the National League like Tottenham did. All that matters is you're through, and I guess that's kind of the way we look at it. If you kind of look at the squad, though, for today, we'll obviously get into it in the player ratings. So it was a much more heavy squad today. This should have been a team that kind of controlled this game, which they did. They just didn't have the goals. If you look at the subs, they're all normal starting 11 players. I don't know. I really don't know what to take away from this other than we're through to the fourth round. It was a great environment at the Lamb Ground. You got to give it that. Going to these places, it's the magic of the cup. It is the magic of the FA Cup, is when you go to these small grounds and you're a team like Tottenham. They did it in 2021, even though it was during COVID and there was nobody allowed. But when they went to, I believe, at that point, they were 6th or 7th tier main AFC or something like that. And I know their ground only had one stand, basically, and it was behind one of the goals, and it held 700 people when there are fans in attendance. That's the magic of the cup, and that's kind of why the cup is enjoyable because of those reasons. We look at it here in America, and I guess the best comparison here would be college athletics. You don't have a major college football team. You don't have them playing in a competition where they could be facing, a junior college or something along those lines, or a D3 school, and they'd have to travel on the road. Or in college basketball, same thing. You don't see the top names in college basketball, traveling to an NAIA school or a JUCO school. You just don't see that happen because that kind of system isn't set up here. You somewhat see it in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, which is, I mean, that is what the FA, they're the same thing. But the U.S. Open Cup, there's a lack of depth in the pyramid, and the fact that the pyramid is a somewhat fake, non-conforming thing, and the fact that your top league in the pyramid only sends about a quarter of its teams now, which is an absolute disaster, but here we are anyways. You don't see anything like it in at least American sports. I know you have cup competitions all over Europe. You have them in South America. You have them in Central America. You got them everywhere else, basically except the Americas. And that kind of thing, like this was enjoyable as much as we were being put through hell for basically 100 minutes before the first goal of this game. It's still the fact that it's actually happening. Now, yes, it would have been enjoyable if Tottenham could have got this done early on and we ended, with a 5, 6, 7-0 scoreline and we're done after 90. Well, Tottenham don't always conform to those ideas, so can't really say we're surprised. But overall, this is why the FA Cup needs to stay the way it is. I know a lot of people are complaining today that, because there's no more replays, it's costing Tamworth, I think it said $1 million in their club wages or something like that, or all fees for the club are about $1 million. It's costing them $1 million. I see where they're coming from, but also the fact that they had this home game, the fact that they got to play this in front of their supporters, I feel like that should mean something also. I get the monetary value. You're not getting that from a replay that would have happened in this case. Now, if a replay were to have happened in this case, or if replays were an option in this case, I don't think we're going 0-0 full time. I think Tottenham tried to get it done because they know rest time is crucial right now, given we are in the second month of basically going nonstop 2 games a week. So I think Tottenham know, hey, we should have got this done, but it took a little longer. Overall, again, you can't really complain about anything other than it took a while, but Tottenham are through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. We don't really even need to take a look at the stats here. Tottenham, as you would expect against a 5th-tier side, dominate possession. It is what it is. Again, there's not much you take away from this game other than you are through to the next round of the Cup. Now, I mentioned, we'll get into the play ratings now. I mentioned in the opening that, it was mostly A- squad. There's a lot of names here that look quite familiar to a normal starting 11. As I mentioned, all the subs are mostly starting 11 players. So, let's get into it. One of the names that is not a starting 11 player, back from injuries / illness / I don't know what, Mikey Moore. He plays, I believe, just over an hour today. He gets a 7-1. This felt like it should have been, again, Tottenham. They controlled this game. They just couldn't get things going in the attacking third. How familiar does that sound? It felt like this should have been a game, obviously, for him to have some type of a breakout performance, but it was not the day. 7-1. Timo Werner. When you can't get past 5th-tier level players, that's a problem. He had multiple opportunities today that he just completely squandered on. 6-7. That was not good from him at all. Brennan Johnson has one of the goals in extra time. He earns a 7-7. He played the full 120 today. He had his moments today. Obviously, the goal was nice, but there were some other moments that he could have put this game away a lot earlier, and he just didn't even come close. So that is that. We move into the midfield. James Maddison. I thought he had a decent day. He got subbed off at the start of extra time. 8-2. Again, I didn't think it was terrible. It was a very decent performance in a midfield, but when you're playing against this side of opposition, that should be expected. Yves Bissouma, I thought he had his first good game in a while. He earns an 8-5. I still don't think he should be in the starting 11 on Wednesday, which we'll get into, but I thought it was a decent day for him. He earns an 8.5. Popsar, I thought, was the worst in the midfield. I believe he also got subbed off right around the hour mark, if I'm not mistaken. 7.5. It wasn't great. Could have been a lot better. Sergio Reguilón gets his first start for Tottenham in what feels like a very long time, even though it's wild to be saying that. But he gets his first start, and I honestly don't think he did that bad. 8-1. It was what it was. There were some bad moments, but overall, I think he was a lot better than the right side, which we'll get to. Archie Gray, 7.6. Again, you got to commend him for what he's doing in a position that's not his. He's doing quite well. Radu Dragic, 7.1. He got subbed off at the start of extra time. It wasn't great. It wasn't great, and that's saying something. Pedro Porro, 7.9. He had his moments today where he looked quite good, and some where he was getting embarrassed by a player who I believe also works at Zara, the department store. That's as fake as that sounds. I'm 95% sure that was real. That's not a good look. He still earns a 7.9 though. And then for the second game running, your man of the match for Tottenham Hotspur, Antonin Kinski, 8.8. I thought he had another just impressive performance. 8.8. Something I just learned in the Postecoglou press conferences this week is that the Czech League hasn't played since like late November, early December. So he's been on break for over a month, and he's just come in and put in these two performances. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. What a performance from him. 8.8. Let's get into the subs. Lucas Bergvall and Dominic Solanke, as I said, get subbed on right after the hour mark, right around there. Bergvall, 7.2. I think, as I mentioned, I don't think Bissouma should get the start on Wednesday. I still think Bergvall's the better option. Bergvall has looked very good in the games he's played this year. I like to see what he can do on Wednesday. Solanke, obviously, would rather have him in the top spot than Timo Werner, so hopefully that comes to fruition come Wednesday. And then we look at our subs that started extra time. You had Jed Spence come on, you had Dejan Kulusevski come on, and you had Heung-min Son come on. Spence, we put him in for Dragic, so he was playing out of position too. Thought he did okay, 6.8. Dejan Kulusevski had one of the goals in extra time. He earns a 7.2. And Heung-min Son had one of the assists in extra time. He earns a 7.1. As I mentioned, I feel like a lot of these players shouldn't have had the need to play today, but Tottenham Hotspur always finds a way to find the need to need these kind of players in games like these. So at least up next in the FA Cup, the draw already happened. Fourth round taking place, I believe it's the first weekend in February. It's Aston Villa away. Of course it's an away draw, and of course it's a Premier League opponent. There's not much else you can say. Hopefully, I don't even know what to hope for. I'm sure Villa are going to do us in, but it is what it is, because I believe right around that time is either right before or right after the second leg of the Carabao Cup semifinals. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that's played, Postecoglou-wise. But up next for Tottenham, back to the league on Wednesday. It's the North London derby at the Emirates. It's Woolwich. Not much else to say. Yeah. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Top of the Perch. If you just stumbled across this video, click like, click subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. We'll be back on Wednesday night, recap all the action from Woolwich on the next episode of Top of the Perch.